They never understood you. They never understood your silence, your discipline, your distance. They thought your quiet meant weakness. They thought your calm meant attachment. They convinced themselves that you were orbiting around them, as if your peace required their presence, as if your nights fell apart just because they walked away. They believed they were the storm, and you were the one trembling under it. But life has a strange way of revealing the truth. Because the moment you stepped out, the moment you stopped explaining, stopped reacting, stopped giving them front row access to your mind, everything changed. Not for you, but for them. They expected to see you shattered. What they saw instead was a man who walked away like he had already healed before he even closed the door. You didn't shake. You didn't flinch. You didn't turn around. You left with a stillness that felt almost dangerous. The kind of stillness people fear because it's the stillness of someone who finally sees life for what it is, not what he wished it would be. And that silence, it wasn't pain. It wasn't loss. It was relief. The kind of relief you feel when you step out of a burning building and smell real air again. They thought you'd be crawling through the ashes, but you walked out untouched, unbothered, unbelievably centered. That alone bruised their ego more than any words ever could, because nothing destroys a fragile ego faster than realizing the person they thought was dependent never needed them at all. You became unreachable. Not because you were running, but because you realized their presence came with conditions. You saw the strings. You saw the manipulation. You saw the way they fed off your loyalty like it was oxygen. So you did the hardest thing a man can do. You folded your feelings, packed them with your dignity, and walked away. No fighting, no begging, no chaos. Just a clean exit that said everything your words didn't have to. And that's what stung the most. You didn't fight to stay. You didn't chase. You didn't kneel in their emotional courtroom, hoping for approval. You just disconnected, effortlessly, like they were a chapter written in pencil, easy to erase, easier to forget. And now they replay the ending over and over like a loop they can't break. They overestimated their role in your story. They believed they were an emotional landmark. But you stepped over them like a crack on the pavement, barely noticing the shift under your feet. Today, they sit with the question they'll never get an answer to. When did he stop caring? But you won't give them that clarity. Not because you're cruel, but because you finally learned the power of silence. Silence is the sharpest blade. Silence is the cleanest revenge. Silence is the moment the villain they expected becomes the ghost they can't touch. You didn't haunt them with drama. You haunted them with absence. And that eats them alive. Because people who rely on control never forgive the ones who escape it. They scroll through your life like detectives trying to find cracks. They search for signs that you're breaking. They check your energy, your updates, your eyes, hoping to see even a shadow of the pain they imagined you drowning in. But all they find is a man who looks rested, stronger, more grounded, more dangerous in his peace than he ever was in his love. That's the part they can't stand. You didn't collapse. You didn't spiral. You didn't become the broken version of yourself they were secretly waiting to see. Instead, your life accelerated. Your focus sharpened. Your energy returned. Your path aligned. While they were rehearsing a story where you'd crumble, you were writing a completely different one. A story where you finally saw your worth clearly, without distortion. They thought they left a wound, but you left without a scar. Because deep down, you always knew the truth. They were never the loss. They were the lesson. A lesson you learned quickly, healed from quietly, and outgrew completely. They convince themselves you're pretending. They tell themselves your peace is just a performance. But every time they see you, that life falls apart, because there is a glow in you that can't be faked, a steadiness that can't be imitated, a masculine calm that only comes from finally choosing yourself. And nothing hurts a self-proclaimed important person more than realizing you didn't just move on. You leveled up. They expected you to mourn them, but you upgraded your entire life instead. They wanted to be unforgettable, but you barely remember the version of yourself who tolerated them. To you, they were a moment, not a destiny, a distraction, not a home, a temporary chapter trying to pretend it was the whole book. You closed it. Life kept moving. The universe didn't pause. Your purpose didn't shrink. Your soul didn't stop evolving. And that's what keeps them awake at night. They can't understand how someone they once had emotional leverage over is now unreachable, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. They keep reaching for a door that no longer exists, because the door isn't locked. It's gone. You didn't choose revenge. You didn't choose bitterness. You didn't choose cruelty. You chose evolution. You chose peace. You chose truth. And real evolution doesn't scream. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't ask for recognition. It just appears, quietly, powerfully, unmistakably. And suddenly, the person who thought you needed them realizes you never did. You were wounded, yes, but not destroyed. You were disappointed, yes, but not defeated. You didn't freeze. You awakened. You didn't retaliate. You released. You didn't break. You became unbreakable. They look at you now with a confusion they can't explain, because the narrative they built doesn't match the man standing in front of them. They thought losing them was the end of your world. It wasn't. It was the beginning of your freedom. You didn't fall apart. You fell into place. And that is the quietest, coldest, most powerful form of revenge a man can ever deliver. Your silence rewrote the story. Your detachment reclaimed your throne. Your peace became the weapon they never saw coming. And now they face the truth. They weren't the heartbreak of your life. They weren't the center of your universe. They weren't the blow you couldn't recover from. They were simply the last lesson you needed before becoming the man you were always meant to be. And nothing terrifies the fragile ego more than being forgotten by the person that they thought could never forget them.